Wait, there's a hair out of place.
Right, get it. People compliment me a lot on my hair. And one of my good friends told me, he said, bro, do you not place every single strand of your hair perfectly placed? And I said, no. The lady that's been cutting my hair has been cutting my hair for the last 20 years.
Oh, wow.
My dad stayed with her, and I always think about this. This is me developing the whole Beyond the Craft idea. I saw her, and I was like, I'm always going to go to her. I don't want anyone else touching my hair.
Wait, there's a hair out of place.
Right, get it. Shelly would be mad at me.
You commit.
Thank you guys for coming in the room today. This conversation is about the fact that all you guys, I think, have enriched people's lives, and you've been enriched. There's a whole thing about deposits and withdrawals, and I feel like a lot of people have deposited into y'all's life, and then you're able to give that withdrawal to other people, and I think that makes the world better. There's people that have a job, and they do their job, and there's people that have a craft, and they do their craft, right? But there's people like us that go beyond it. Outside people can't quantify it. They can see it, they can feel it, they don't know how to explain it. But it's that we go beyond the craft. But the people in the room today, Rebecca, near and dear to my heart, keeps everyone in line, lead of operations for our team, has mover and shaker. You want to be around movers and shakers. I tell Taylor, I'm like, bro, we have to stay around killers. We have to stay around people like Tessa, who's like, I'm gonna sell out a show yesterday, a fashion show at the art museum, and I'll be there tomorrow. And I'll figure it out. And I love that. And I think we all have that. And we have people around us also that believe in us. I believe you believed in me, actually. As crazy as you still call me, and as crazy as, our first month working together, you were like, you're crazy for what you're doing, but I'll join you. And you'll sell out a show, but I'll join you the next day, even though I have so much pressure and we deal with pressure so well. Caroline, from your colleagues, they believed in you, and you were like, I don't know how to, I do calligraphy, right, and graphic design, and now you're reading architecture plans and designing this beautiful space that people walk into and feel inspired by and see online, and they're like, oh my gosh, I gotta go there. People feel that because you did your craft, but you also went beyond it. Taylor, as a friend, as someone that we both deposit into each other, we feel so enriched. After our conversations, they feel like 30-minute conversations and they're 2 hours. Yeah. But thank you guys for being in the room.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks again for having me into your space. This is beautiful.
Thank you.
It's cool to see your brainchild come to vision, and thanks for being. Yeah, well, to the whole team. I don't know where Chef is, but he's
Chef
cooking it up
Daniel.
somewhere, killing it. But yeah, it's really lovely to be here, and kind of to piggyback on what we've already shared about Beyond the Craft. I see this as a real opportunity for us as creatives, entrepreneurs, friends to expand and kind of pay it forward through the narrative and conversations that we have. I think there's so many people that will relate to these conversations that we have. Even just small bits can inspire so much. So thanks for opening yourselves up to having this chat with us.
I got inspired because it is Women's History Month, but my mom taught me passion. And I'm here today because of my passion, because my mom took her work home every day, and that's where I'm at today. I'm molded by my sisters. Do not disrespect a woman. Do not, because there's people like my sisters that, like Rebecca's like my sister.
They're gonna hold you accountable.
No. They will bark back. Rightfully so, respectfully, they will bark back. I really want to understand and open the conversation as to who has molded or polished your life, male or female. Who has kind of created that inspiration and kind of believed in you? Maybe when you said you can't do menswear, and you're just selling out shows now.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody in their career hits a point where you start to question yourself. But I think it's how you get through that is how it really determines where your success is going to end up. Right? You got to throw that rock, and is it going to land on this side of the water or on that side of the water?
Right.
Well, it depends on how hard you throw it.
Right.
And you're not going to throw it hard if you don't think you're going to make it across the river, So, I think especially like kind of like with you, like my mom definitely showed me so much work ethic. Just growing up, she was like a single mom of 3, and it was, you do what you have to do. And my favorite thing my mom taught me growing up is, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to tell you no. Like, ask the questions, ask to try to get what you got to get done. So what's they going to do? Tell you no? Okay, cool. So then you move on. So I've never, because of her, I've never been scared to like ask, ask questions or ask for favors, or can you teach me, or anything like that. It's just I've always been very open on like being able to ask the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
I think in every season of life or stage, it's almost been somebody different, which is amazing, because I truly believe that people are put in your path along the way to kind of steer you in a different direction and to eventually place you where you're meant to be. And I mean, I'm really fortunate that both of my parents, too, like you guys with work ethic, my parents have always reminded my brothers and I of like, you deserve a seat at the table and you deserve to participate and be a part of the conversation. But it's going to take hard work, and you have to always show up.
Do your due diligence.
Be dependable and work hard and be loyal. And that definitely, I think, has really shaped the drive that I have, to where like, I think some people may look at all of us and be like, you work insane hours or you work too much. But it's like, I think somebody else out there worked even harder. And I think like I've been raised with a lot of my culture as a big part of my upbringing. And it's amazing to learn about my history and the people that have come before me, and to know like I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. And like we're all in that position where somebody else had to do something to like give us this opportunity and the space to be where we are. Even like at one point in my life working in ministry, and those people encouraging me to like know that I was creative in some way, but gave me the space to like test out my creativity. And that's where I started doing calligraphy. And then from there, then meeting Chef Edward and Daniel, and them also seeing something in me and encouraging me to pursue that, and really just being in spaces where people empowered you.
I want to hear about this, the Hilmi.
I found out like when I first joined Box Street that Alex Hilmi and his team were the ones that helped us create one of our original brands with Box Street back when we were a food truck. And then later when I came on board, I studied our demographic, and it had changed a lot and shifted as we started doing catering. And we realized, I was like, wait, like most of our demographic is women, and our current brand is blue and like red. And so we had the opportunity to meet with Hilmi and his team a couple times, and to just kind of like get some guidance and some like adjustment on like, are we going the right direction? Like, is this the right thing? And he doesn't really know it, but he's definitely one of the people that instilled that confidence in me, because it was one meeting that we had and he was like, you got it. Like, this is like good. Like, you're going in the right direction. Awesome. And I think for me at that point in my career, really stepping into creativity full time, I needed to hear that from somebody, and somebody like him who I really admired. I think sometimes like we think that it's either me or you. It's not like I can encourage you, right? And I should probably tell him that one
Empowered.
day.
You're
definitely.
And like that's the legacy he'll also leave behind.
Yeah.
And that's the DNA
for sure.
that you're gonna do that for someone else. It's the whole investments and withdrawals.
Yeah, definitely. You probably don't know this, and I was trying to figure out when was the right time to tell you, but I remember telling Chef like, we were dreaming about the concept of opening a brick and mortar, and he was like, what do you think will come like after that, and like about with design? And I was like, I don't know, like, are people gonna notice? And he's like, people will take notice. But one of the things I had said was, I was like, I feel like I'll know that I've made it if like I get to do a collaboration with Limatus Bespoke.
Oh
because
my gosh.
I was like they highlight like the movers and the shakers in the city. And so the other day when I found out that you were gonna be on this, I was like, holy crap. I was like, I get to like,
I love that.
I was like,
so
I get
much.
to work with their lead designer. Like, this is kind of like surreal in a way, where I'm like,
I think those things happen,
like,
and it tells everyone
that
like, you are in the right space. Like you're doing. The universe is telling you that you're still on the right path.
I'm like extremely like, I'm blushing for real. That's amazing. But I think like it's going back to kind of what you were saying, how sometimes it's not like that we need like a validation or anything, right? But that little push from somebody who's very like-minded in the creative world, and it kind of thinks the way that we do and sees visions and see them come to life. Sometimes it's nice to kind of step back and like look at somebody and be like, did I do it? Like,
Affirmation.
Did I do it?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
is it good? And you know, when somebody is like, yes, this is amazing, you're like, okay, I did it. You know, like I can say it now.
family member or a best
Yeah,
friend,
for
or someone
sure.
like
Exactly.
within the industry
Right.
that you're like getting
Yes.
like
Who
true
has, like, no-
validation
Right.
from.
Sure.
It's
It's
like,
not like a biased opinion
Yeah.
or anything. They're just like, oh yeah, it's pretty. Like I love the color of pink. Like they can actually take a step back and see it and see all the
Right.
hard work and the building blocks of everything and be like, this is awesome.
For
'Cause
sure.
this is amazing. I mean,
you.
I have yet to walk into here until today, but you know, listening to Adrian say, as soon as you walk in, you just feel it, you know, and that's exactly what this
Wait
place
till you
is.
see it packed, the energy, the
Yes,
music,
I can
everything, everyone
imagine.
moving, and it's like, I walked in here and I was just like, unfortunately, this is effing genius. I was like, this is amazing, and I knew that it was gonna spread like wildfire for the women on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah.
But
Just anybody
the
in
food
general, it's,
being
like,
as good as
awesome.
it was,
Yes.
it was gonna fill up the men also.
Sure.
So the men were gonna want to come here because you know
food's
the
bomb.
food's
Good.
amazing.
Yeah.
You know, Daniel and Chef Edward are amazing.
They are.
Great hospitality, and it was just genius. I brought one of my friends from Austin. I didn't know how he was gonna take it, and he walks in, and I just see his eyes light up. Like he looked at the glasses and he says, "This has a woman's touch on it," and I was like, "Yeah!" I was like, "Of course."
You're like,
it
yeah,
does."
it does.
And thinking about Rebecca, it's like she's that woman touch for our team. I really appreciate her because of the way her mind works, and I appreciate that. And then she also appreciates the way my mind works. But I want to understand.
Even though we do that sometimes,
Oh,
but it's
yeah,
all
it's
in
all
good.
And
healthy.
even today,
It's all good.
Even
It's
today,
healthy.
she brought you like Mucinex to make sure
Yeah.
you were taken care of.
Yeah.
Like that's a
It's
good
all-
teammate.
It's all
That's
healthy.
amazing.
And I think there's another message where she was like, I can't remember what she said. What was the last message you sent me?
I was like, did you think to bring disposable ware for like the drinks? And, and so I brought that. I was
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh no, she said I got you meds too.
Oh yeah, I got you meds. Yeah, I got you
taking
meds.
care
Mom.
of you.
But
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
it's like it's the whole healthiness of male and female, and when there's a healthy, secure, empowering thing on both ends,
Definitely.
it is dangerous for the world. Like it is
a mutual
dangerously
respect,
beautiful,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think we have that bond. And to Rebecca's horn, she's amazingly direct with everyone, and very in an email she feels very like it's very dry. It's very like there. And they're like, who the heck? All my new clients are like, who's this person? Where's Adrian at? You know? But then they meet Rebecca and they see her work, where she went beyond the craft on our communication, our operations.
Your
just
value.
schedule. She looked at me and she was like, you're charging how much? You need to be charging more. She believed I was worth more, and I didn't even believe that in myself.
That is driving value right there.
Right.
Oh
in
yeah,
itself,
I'm
you know.
always like keeping him in check.
I'm like, don't tell Rebecca I'm doing this.
I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you at today?
Well, your,
And-
clients,
Damn
your
boys.
clients feel that too. Though.
Yeah.
Like, being on the other side of it, even working with you guys,
Right.
like I've seen the other side, I've been the client on the other side, and seeing that, like that provides so much value, and that goes beyond the craft of, it's not just a job for you. This is experience that's speaking.
No, I like truly. I any team that I've been with, I truly am like above and beyond that team. Like I go beyond my role. I've always been in client services,
Yeah.
advertising, marketing, operations, but it's like at the end of the day, it's helping Adrian be a better business owner. Have the margins that he needs to have. I'm like, your work is too good. You need to be you need to be over
Right.
here.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and I did the same when I worked with Alex, I found later in life, because I've been doing this a long time, I enjoy helping small businesses. I love feeling the energy from young minds and their new things that they can teach me, but then also like all of my years of experience in marketing,
Very
advertising, like just,
receptive, right.
I think you should do it this way, or have you thought about that? But then, them also teaching me the new stuff, all the new things. So I love it because I'm getting energized and hopefully they're getting energized. I mean, I don't think
One
I'd
of-
be sitting here if
Right.
Adrian didn't
One of the
feel that.
parallels that I see with a lot of our clients is that they, you know, they go through that stage where they're like, oh, who's this person? Who's this person, Rebecca? And then they meet Rebecca and they start understanding all the communication and the clarity. And they're like, everyone needs a Rebecca.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't have it. Don't get any ideas. Going into that, like who's polished that for you? Who's polished your diamond and molded you?
My mom was one that, like, I don't know. I remember it was like in 4th grade, like I was getting picked on, and I was, you know, my mom had to make all my clothes because I was a toothpick, and not anymore. But one day I came home and she's like, well, don't let them pick on you. Like, you
Right.
know, and it was just like that one conversation with my mom. I was like in 4th grade. And ever since then I was like, yeah,
It's
like,
amazing.
you're right. Like, why am I letting somebody, who cares if this person's taller than me or bigger than me? And like, I never stood down since. And my dad has also taught
All
us
of us.
like work ethic and doing things on your own. So like, you know, around the house and things like that, handyman. But it was my first real like boss in marketing and advertising. And I
Right.
didn't realize it until I stopped working there. Like, it was like sink or swim. And I was like, God, like she's just throwing me in the water. Like, oh my God,
Pressure.
I don't even
Right.
know this stuff. Or I'd give her like rough drafts and they'd come back with red ink, blood all over them. And I'm like, but she wouldn't do it. She was like telling me how to do it. So I would go back and I was like, in hindsight, like she was teaching me. And it was just like, or she'd send me off to like, you're going to be going to Chicago next week. You're going to be going to, and I'd be going by myself. I mean, I was in my 20s.
You had to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? This person is sending me because they believe in me. They know I'm going to,
Right.
or they're testing it out.
Right.
And then they wouldn't keep sending me if I had failed the first
Right.
time. And I kept getting sent on these trips. And I was like,
Am I doing something right?
okay, well, I guess like got to do it, you know? And looking back now, like I'm like, wow, I'm like grateful. Olga Bernal,
Right.
she was my first like
Cheers
true.
to her.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, and then it taught me to instill that when I became like a supervisor
Right.
and I had my subordinates or coordinators or
Right.
like, you know, it's like teach the person to fish and they will
Right.
be plentiful, you
Right,
know.
right.
And that's like, if you keep saying like, I'll just do it, it's faster, it's easier if I just do it. Well, then your team is never going to learn. And she instilled that in
Right.
me. So that's how I always like wanted to be more than a boss or a supervisor. I wanted to be a mentor to
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's like the key thing in no matter how old or how young you
Yeah.
are, you're always a mentor to someone younger
Right.
than you.
Taylor and I were talking about the whole thing of, and I think you talked about it also, where you know you feel uncomfortable. I think the greatest art comes out of inadequacy.
Or uncomfortable conversations. We had one today.
Yeah,
I even
I
told
mean-
you. I said sometimes you got to have the uncomfortable
No,
conversations.
you appreciate that, but I think the stuff with the most weight, the stuff I've created with the most weight, the most substance, it's come before it actually happened. There was so much uncomfortableness, inadequacy, doubt, but there's so much growth in that. And Taylor and I were talking about it, where it's just like, and Daniel and I were talking about it. Daniel tells me, he's like, why can't I have normal friends? Why do I have to have the crazy ones that want to run like half marathons? And Tay and I appreciate Tay. Like, he opened up to me and he's like, bro, you got me running again. And I was like, but like, I went to go run with Tay one time in Austin. And I was like, bro, you smoked my ass. And I was so happy because I was like, I needed that humility.
Yeah.
I needed my ass kicked. I needed to feel like not the fastest in the room. And if you're, I think we all share this, where it's like, you know, if you're the loudest in the room, if you're the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's a big growth thing that I've been seeking recently is getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that I think is, in that space for me, as far as creativity goes, as far as productivity goes, has been the most effective tool. because, you know, I'm on y'all's turf right now, you know, and like it could be very uncomfortable. There's these moments of like, you know, I want to speak the right thing, I want to share the right thing, and just sitting with it, taking a moment to breathe and like easing into it. I think it allows the like most conscious creativity and flow. And I'm curious if that's something that y'all resonate with, or
I
y'all
think
find
it's
in your
almost
work.
like something that you eventually just start chasing,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Like it's like such a rush to be in uncomfortable situations,
Yeah.
right? Or you know, we all have friends who are like, I could never go eat lunch by myself,
Yeah.
right? Because of the way that makes them feel, or go to the movies by themselves, or you know, and you know, these uncomfortable situations or just things where you're like, can I do this? You second guess yourself or
Right.
anything. You get past that, and then sometimes, I don't know if y'all feel like, where you're like, okay, I feel comfortable right now. Okay, what's my new project?
the next
What's
step.
my
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
thing to go to?
What
'Cause,
could
like,
push
you're-
my limit next?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, we're running and it's like, I'm like, shit, now I gotta get faster. You know, instead of over here like beating my ass. I was like, yeah, like, but I think you need those people around you. And Taylor, I talk about it a lot, where it's like you need those people that are gonna challenge you.
I think it's
And-
the constant learning, like how we,
Oh,
you know, we
yeah.
were chatting earlier about, you know, you're like, you know, I kind of want to go learn something else or do this, and I'm like, I love that because,
Evolving. You're always
yeah,
evolving.
like
Yeah.
somebody whose mind is always open, and you're like, you know, always wanting to learn more and do more, and it's like, you know, chasing that.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's amazing.
Knowledge.
And
Yeah.
Caroline, I thought it was really cool how you were telling me a little bit about getting into this business. I think it would be really awesome for everybody to know more about that. You know, you starting out kind of focusing on calligraphy, it sounds like, and then, you know, getting into the architectural process, getting into
Yeah.
the design process, to where, you know, your point, you're sitting there with tile samples, picking things out,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
you know, kind of stepping into the role of somebody else traditionally.
For sure.
I think that
No, yeah, like I think so. Having been like in a place where, I mean, I worked most of my life in the nonprofit world, and I have always told people like, so a lot of people aside from with Box Street know me as the Faithful Maker. It's kind of like my handle or whatever. And somebody recently asked me like, what did that come from, or like, what does that mean? And I think at every point at the beginning of my like career life, I knew that I always like to make things, and I like to create, and I like to be creative, but I never knew exactly what that pathway was, or like what way I wanted to lean into it. And I remember like being encouraged a lot in the nonprofit world and working in ministry that like it's okay like to not know, but like lean into it anyway. And so I think at some point throughout that, I would use calligraphy as a way to like reflect and like write things that were important to me, and like hopefully pass them on to somebody else. And at that point I decided like, okay, I know I like to make, and it's going to be a commitment to myself to like remain faithful to making, whatever capacity that is. And so then like later realizing that calligraphy is like what gave me the opportunity to like meet other small business
Right.
owners, and Eddie finding me and being like, hey, you want to make menus for us for like a food truck? And I'm like, yeah, like sounds good. And at the time, like I was working in some corporate jobs trying to like start saving money and all of that. And I remember him telling me like, one day, like, wouldn't it be nice if you get paid to go shopping? And I was like, yeah, I was like, your job sounds awesome. Like you're like going to like stores and buying cake stands and like things, and not knowing later that like that opportunity would come. And I think it was until Daniel and Eddie with Box Street, they catered my husband and I's wedding, and Eddie was like, wait, you do more than just like calligraphy. And I was like, yeah, like I love like conceptualizing and designing.
Right.
And so he was like, okay, like let's use more of that. And so I
Tap
became,
in.
yeah,
lean.
like then they were like, hey, like you want to come start doing like setups for like food styling at events? And I'm like, yeah. And I think like what's really special about Eddie and Danny has been that they always gave me the freedom to like be creative, and they trusted my talent for some crazy reason at the beginning. They knew, and like they gave me that opportunity to be like, whatever you want to do, like you do it, like we
Yeah.
trust you, and let me know what you need to do
Yeah.
it. And I just kept pushing myself. And Eddie and I from like the very beginning have always had like a similar like, I don't know, like just an interesting wavelength where like at the beginning I would like he'd be like, I need a flyer for this. And I'd be like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And I would sketch it at home. And like, he would like try to sketch it or like describe it. And we would send it to each other. And to the point where it was like exactly the same. And I was like, whoa, like that doesn't happen. And I think as that happened more and more, we were like, this is something really unique and special. And like, I think I was just telling you earlier where I think a lot of people ask like, interior designers or designers, like what other concepts are you doing, or like what direction do you want to go in? And I think after the last couple years in this journey with Edward and Daniel and with Box Street, I think it's really encouraged me and made me feel really confident of like, I don't know if I want to just do like freelance design. I think I really want to do it with this team and like with Box Street, because you don't just find that anywhere.
Yeah, it's wavelength, you know.
It is, and I think that's what makes designing here so much more rewarding, is that it means so much more than just like trends and putting colors and things together. But I'm sure y'all all know, like, you buy into like the bigger vision because of your teams and the people that you have working with you that make you care even more about it and that make you go beyond the craft, you know.
I know you know, Tessa and I talked about the fact of, you know, she graduated UIW, all UIW alum.
Love it.
All UIW alum, so let's highlight that. My sister,
Community at work.
My sister also went there to UIW. We talked about this. There's two things I want to talk about with you, Tessa. We talked about this thing where you graduated and you felt lost, right? So I want to go into that a little bit, but I also want to go into the fact of the can and the can't. I'm a big believer in the person that says they can and the person that says they can't are both right. And I love that we learned that. And I think we learned that, you know, we all used can't once. But I think now in your field, or just in your where you are right now, you don't use can't. You said you can.
So much
I'll figure it out.
I love that. I love that so much. I had this weird acronym. It has a curse word in it, but it was called FITBO. FITBO is figure it the out.
It kind of goes back to like the team, you know, because I don't know if I would have ever felt as confident as I do now in what I do if it wasn't for the people that I work with, you know, like James and Haley and Devin, like talk about the biggest cheerleaders and, you know, supporters and all of us and everything that we do. And we've been working together now for so long. You feel better about yourself because of the people that you surround yourself with. Yeah, you feel so empowered because
you're ready to go through a wall.
Yeah, the people around you believe in you, and it's such this trust thing, right? Like we had this show last night, and everybody was talking about, you know, well, how did y'all do this and this, and like our big, like, you know, one of my biggest things is like, oh, that's like a Taryn thing, or that's a Haley thing, or that's a James thing, right? And sometimes, you know, we all have our own little pieces of what we do, and within trusting each other so much, it just always works out because we build on each other and we do this, and it's such a team effort. Like, I don't know if I could do what I do with any other team.
You keep those people around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so, I wish I had a better word for it, but it was like you keep those killers around you.
I love it.
You need those people that push,
that drive.
You feel
that
down.
Believe in you.
And I think, you know, Taylor and I, he's like, come check out the studio. We never meant to have like a 45-minute conversation, and we did. And I think we both left that conversation like, we're ready to go through a wall.
Let's get it.
You know? Like, let's giddy up, let's get it. You know what I mean? And this whole, like, we have our craft and we go beyond it. I don't know what the vision is for the future, but like, I just want all these like-minded people to be able to feel encouraged whenever they have that pressure on them. You know what I mean? They feel that doubt. I don't know if a lot of creatives have that conversation, because, you know, I think everything we've talked about, the greatest thing, the greatest creative, or just in business happens. Before that happens, the doubt happens. The inadequacy.
Syndrome.
The can'ts.
And you just got to do it. I don't know who said it earlier, but I always say, like, sometimes Adrian and I will be having a conversation, and I'm like, you know what? You just got to do it, or you just got to ask, because all they can say is no.
Right. And you go ask someone else.
The answer's always no until you
ask. And if you never ask, then
you're not going to know.
You're not going to know. They might just be like, heck yeah, you know, let's do it.
I feel like we always have those.
And if they say no, well then you either find a solution of like, well, let's
Here's a
make
solution.
them say yes.
Right.
I
You
think we've all
know?
hit that moment where we're like, okay, how do I ask this? How do I present this? You know, and then you go and you're like, you ask the question, they're like, oh yeah, that's fine, and you're like, what?
Like, saw that
Oh,
word.
that was
like,
so easy.
My
Okay.
thing is I always tell like
We're all
Adrian,
in our head.
Yes.
when they say no and they're adamant with no, well then that was just somebody that we weren't meant to work with.
Exactly.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know? So
You know, earlier you talked about how, you know, how Limatus in itself works with so many movers and shakers around the city and everything. And I really do think that through that I've learned so much, and it's kind of definitely given me a path to where I am in my career. I mean, I'm even 6 years ago in my early mid 20s, meeting these people and having conversations with them as we're designing their clothes and they're sitting in the showroom, you know, where they're having a drink, and I've just been able to pick people's minds.
Love it.
So
Learn.
much and learn. And I absolutely feel so honored that I've been able to be around so many of these people, you know, especially, you know, with y'all were really around like the makers and creators thing. And that was so amazing because everybody just had their own niche and their own either business or what they did and their passion for it. Yeah. So it's just been really awesome to surround myself in my career with just people
Right.
who are like that.
And bringing, go ahead.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I think that we're all sharing kind of this common story of family and tribe and like the people we surround ourselves with, and I think that that's so valuable. But I am also curious, like in those moments of design and being, you know, and pursuing your craft, is feedback maybe one of the most important things, or do you think that there is this kind of innate just calling that you're like, okay, that's what I want to do? And
Well, I
driving
think
that
there
message?
has to be a balance. I think in everything that we all do, because you know, you can do exactly what you want to do and get, you know, very forward onto that, but you're also making things for everybody else.
Yeah.
For everybody else's pleasure, you know, for everybody else's visual
Right.
inspiration and everything. And I think that's also a very scary part
Right.
because you're like, oh yeah, I can draw a square and I know exactly how I like my square to look like. But you're trying to draw a square that the majority of people are going to say, oh my God, that is so cool.
Right.
You know, and that's the scary part of it. So yeah.
That's cool.
I
I
think
love that.
I think one of the things we also can, you know, talk about also is the how and the why. You know, always asking how and why. You know, Rebecca talked about it. You know, it's like if someone says no, well, then what? Well, you know, figure it out. Like, you know, no is no, doesn't mean no. You know, but the how and the why. People probably see people in these beautiful suits. You know, that Limatus, you know, creates, and I think there's two types of people. There's people that look at that and they're like, I'll never be there, and they box themselves, unfortunately. Maybe because people in their lives and who they're surrounded by with box them. But there's other people that ask, how can I get in that? Or why is that not me? Why can't I afford that yet? And how do I? You know, and just you know, us talking about, you know, the how and the why. Like, I remember being around Pearl, just being a photographer, filmmaker there, not really meeting people, just working there. And I look around and I said, why don't any of these people look like me? Why did all the people like I'm kind of also like enriched by, and they're like movers and shakers in San Antonio, why don't they look like me? Why did they come from my part of the city? And I was like, okay, well then I have to do something about that. I have to be the pioneer on that. And I'm a learner, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna sit back, learn from them, and then try to bring my people up. The craft is that your art piece. The craft is this, your art piece. The craft is the stuff that I don't even know I need, but I need it. You went beyond it, right? But I'll touch a little bit on the suit stuff, you know, or just, you know, women's wear, men's wear. When you, and I know Taylor can vouch for this, when you get in an art piece, it's an art piece at the end of the day. When you get in that, you talk different, you walk different, you sit different, you hold yourself differently.
But that's where the people see that they're like, how can I look like that? It's not the suit, it's the person, it's the energy that person
but
is
it's
radiating.
the energy you put into it.
Yeah,
too.
you know, and
You know?
it's the way people carry themselves. You know, they put on something that makes them feel so good. You know, we have different clientele. People who come in and they have absolutely no care about what
Right.
color their stitchings are, or they're like, that fabric, do whatever you want with it. And then we have people who come and they're like, oh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to pick every single detail. I hope you put out 2 hours for me because we're going to have some fun. And both of those people feel about the same whenever they wear it, you know? It feels differently wearing something that's for you, created by
Yeah.
you.
It was custom made
Yeah,
for
so when
them. It was-
people, and I think that's my favorite thing to hear from my clients is like that text message when somebody sends over to me and they're like, I was at the interview and I got complimented by the person who was interviewing me, like how I looked and how I was dressed, and
Right.
you know, I was at so and so, and my
Right.
one of my bosses who has never spoken to me before came up to me, and like I feel that like in my soul, like
Right.
I love that.
Right.
I love getting those
You helped
messages.
that.
Right.
You helped that
It's
happen.
we'll talk on it. Okay, I think where y'all paralleled in our conversation, synergy and energy, right? And you talked about the whole fact of like they feel it. People compliment me a lot on my hair, and one of my good friends told me, he said, "Bro, do you not place every single strand of your hair perfectly placed?" And I said, "No. The lady that's been cutting my hair has been cutting my hair for the last 20 years, 2 decades."
Oh wow.
And my dad stayed with her. And I always think about this. This is me developing the whole Beyond the Craft idea. I saw her and I was like, I'm always gonna go to her. I don't want anyone else touching my hair.
Wait, there's a hair out of place.
Right, get it. Shelly would be mad at me.
You commit.
So like it's like we got the commitment,
Textbook.
we got the
You're my
consistency.
haircut forever.
But he told me, he's like, you don't have anyone that places you perfectly. I'm like, no, bro, I just go like this and it's done.
Trained.
But it was Shelly. She had people get their haircut, they have a job, right? They have a job. Shelly, beyond the craft. That's her craft. She went beyond it. Very appreciative of that.
Well, it's mastery, you know, and I think that we see it in so many of our talents, you know, and I do relate a lot on the suits and that feeling of getting that text message of someone who's like, yo, you just changed. You just put me in, you allowed me to step into my shield,
I
into
walk
my
different.
armor. I
I
walk
feel
different.
different.
I got the
Yes.
job. And I think it speaks to, most people in this room could figure out how to hem a pant, you know, like get some needle and you do the thing. But to like do it with mastery, to know how to taper a leg, to know how to properly fit a jacket,
Right.
to know the fabrics, to know, you know, the stitching and what you're building,
Right.
constructing a suit, you know. I think it speaks to the mastery,
Right.
right? What are other moments that you're finding that mastery, or you're like, oh shit, I'm really dope at this?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a badass.
I want to hear from her.
like it's a lot. Like I think, well, because with us, like it is so nonstop. Like we are continuously new clients, new project every single day. Where we're starting 3 new projects with clients. You know, like a lot of people will see a custom suit, right, and they're like, oh, so bougie, right? But there's so much more that comes into it. You
So
know,
much sacrifice that went into that.
well, just I deal with a lot of people who have physical issues or like body dysmorphia, you know, and I feel like the first time I started realizing like I was gonna, you know, my first client who had severe body dysmorphia, it shattered me. I didn't know what to do or say to make this
Right.
person feel better,
Right.
right? They're the nerves, the anxiety of someone having that courage to come in and be like, measure me. You know, like that
Very
is
vulnerable state.
it's and sometimes we do get clients who are like that, and it's an honor to get somebody in and be like, hey, like, trust me, like I'm like, we got this. Like, this is gonna be
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, shake it off. I know this is hard for you.
Yeah.
And we don't, it's not about even having those conversations. It's just making them feel that.
Right.
Comfortable. making them
Comfortable.
They feel
yeah.
seen
Yes,
and known.
absolutely. And, you know, you know, it's yeah, like we're a fashion company. We do our spring, summer, fall, winter lines and stuff, but that's not all we do.
Right.
So yeah, that has been some of the most difficult, but probably some of the most rewarding places in like my job is seeing somebody look in the mirror and just say like, wow, like, you know, feel so good about themselves. And it gets very emotional
Right.
sometimes for people, and it's amazing. It's
they,
so
they
amazing.
They can't explain it.
It's
I
not
think
just
what I
the-
like
it's not just
about
the
you
clothing
guys
that you're
too
doing,
is
yeah.
y'all like I've been following y'all since the beginning, like with
Since
'cause-
when?
seen
Since
us grow.
they were making shirts out of what?
Yeah, since I mean, it's we're all kind of connected
Yeah.
in a weird way,
Which-
but
They're
like
making shirts out of a
Devin and-
what? Out of their house, or right?
Well, Devin and they were doing all
outside
the
of
fittings
James and
inside
Haley's.
of
Yeah, whenever I got hired at
outside of their
Limatus,
house.
which was about 6 years ago,
Yeah.
we didn't even have a showroom. Like we were going into people's offices, kind of like that, kind of.
Oh, we come to you.
Yeah, we come to
Like,
you.
We come to you.
Yeah, and it was just because like we couldn't afford like a brick and mortar, so it was like trying to sound cool. Like we
I
come
know.
to you.
But,
Like,
I mean, like-
sorry, we don't have a showroom.
Yeah, but like y'all have always just used. Y'all didn't hire models.
No, yeah.
Y'all used people in the community,
Well,
real
yeah.
people. And even like last night's show, y'all are also evolving, and it's just people respecting y'all's craft. And it's like nobody needs to know who these people are. They're just everyday people. They're not models, they're not getting paid. They believe in y'all's craft, and it's every shape, form, ethnicity. And I think that is the beauty of what Limatus is too. Like y'all are real. You're not just selling to, the 6'2", 110-pound model. No, y'all are saying that y'all can tailor something for everyone and make them feel like that model to where they are walking the catwalk and it's great. So, I mean, I wasn't at the show last night, but I watched it live and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Like, it's just amazing. And that's just like, you are Bespoke, and people think of Bespoke as like, oh my gosh, like I can't ever go into this
Right.
Bespoke shop. But like, y'all are setting that standard of, yes, you can.
Right.
Like,
It's
we're
tangible.
here
Exactly.
for,
Yeah.
we're here for everybody.
Exactly. And I love to educate people on it. Like a lot of people who come in are, why is this better? Or why should I do this? Or what's the difference? And just starting to educate people on the process and what goes into it.
Yeah.
That's probably also one of my favorite parts.
It's like anything else, like some people buy, I'm just gonna like an analogy.
I have to ask people, I'm
you
like,
drink
okay,
Folgers
so
coffee all the time, but then you try like a high end, like roasted,
Oh,
like, and
you're
it's
talking
like,
about Mila
oh my
coffee?
gosh, the
Are you
difference.
talking about Marco's Mila?
Yeah,
coffee?
I mean, like it's like,
Feels so
and then
good.
it's like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
Now I get why you're paying this price point.
Right.
It's like I
But
have to
it's
ask
like-
people, I'm like, on a scale from like 1 to 10, how far can I geek out on you? Like, how much time you got?
Right.
It's so much more than just clothes. Like, I think it's
Right.
like you are literally visual storytelling
Right.
people's stories.
Right.
And I think like the fact that you get to put people in a space where they feel the most themselves, like that's such a testament to the fact that like you're a storyteller. Like you're literally sharing people's narratives, and I think that's like such a gift that creatives get to have, is that like some people may be able to give like adjectives and words and things, but they don't know how to put them together and like tell it, you
Right.
know? And we get to do that with like
Right.
colors and pictures and
Right.
textures and like that's so fun.
We talked about I think the parallel that we talked about was synergy and energy, right? I don't know I know energy, but I don't know the definition of synergy. But you guys can elaborate. I will totally tell you guys like I don't know what I'm talking
Siri.
about. Right.
We're like, hey Siri.
What is synergy?
Synergy.
But whatever that is, when I walked into this your canvas, I felt it. I think a lot of people in this city felt it. And people that I brought from Austin felt it. And that was special for me because I was like, this is my dirt. This is my soil. These are my people.
That's cool.
They come from my areas. You know what I mean? It was cool that, that you,
Yeah.
and I love it because there's people like you. There's people that walk those same halls at SPJ,
You St. Philip.
and there's young artists, male and female, that come into a space like this and they're like, how do I get into this? And this is what like this whole conversation is about. That there's people that unlock stuff in your head, and all of you guys have unlocked stuff in my head, and vice versa. You've unlocked stuff in people's head, they've unlocked stuff in yours. But I want to go into the whole like the tender love and care you put into this space, and that everyone feels.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think like for us, like intentionality has always been a part of the way that we do hospitality, and that started with catering. And I think for me, like I've always felt that it's important to be intentional with every single step of the process.
Right.
And I think like one of my favorite things to do is to look at all the details and to make sure like, okay, how do we make that detail important? Because it may be more important to one person than another, you know? And I think like I had a really fun time being able to see like, okay, like if this is the whole story that we're trying to communicate with Box Street and our brand, like how do we make sure that every part of that is fostering that narrative and telling that story? And so like for us, the magic or like the secret sauce is that like if you can't pinpoint what exactly it is that's making you feel some type of way when you're in here, then we've done our job. And that's something that I've always wanted to do with our team is like I've always been comfortable like being behind the scenes and like even with like creating content and social media and like being behind the camera. Like I like that I get to make decisions and creative decisions that help the overall vision, but that people don't need to know like those different little steps. They just get to enjoy the end product, you know? And like to me that's really rewarding.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of synergies in what both of you were talking about of understanding the difference between just the product and like what that product is, but why that product exists. And I think we're seeing a really beautiful kind of connection point, another synergy. Of that's what
Google it.
Use it in a sentence.
Bro, I'm a learner.
Google it.
I know. I saw you unveil it yourself, which was beautiful.
I'm a learner.
But seeing that, like having a product like a hospitality, a hospitality business, a restaurant, where you have people from the community, from the neighborhood, coming in and feeling ownership in it. And like this is a part of the culture. I resonate with this. I think that's so special and probably speaks a lot to the why of having this kind of business.
For sure. And like making sure that, like you said, like the place feels welcoming to anyone that walks in, whether it's a tourist, whether it's a person from our own community. Like I wanted it to be a comfortable space that everyone can see themselves in. And it's funny because one of the questions we get asked a lot is like, is there a dress code? And we're like, no, like you can come as you are.
Everyone comes in their Sunday best.
Yeah.
Shoot.
And it's cool because like you'll have people that like come like from the gym, but then you have like conventioneers that are coming from the convention in their suits corporate. And then you have like people that are like dressing for the vibe and the style and
for like the wall with the picture.
And it's cool like that they feel comfortable coming here and like expressing themselves. And that's been really intentional for us, especially with our team, right? Is we want this to be like an inclusive, comfortable space for everyone. And that goes for our team and our guests alike. Like we don't only prioritize that on one side or the other. And so like I think it's just so important, especially in our community. Like I'm born and raised from San Antonio. Like I think for me it's always been important to think of like how am I gonna leave an imprint on my city and like help it become what I know it can be and continue to like build upon what everyone else has created. And knowing people, letting people know that like we have so much like untapped talent here. And if you like trust these new young people that are coming up in these industries, like the whole game can change. You no longer, and I'm supportive of people coming from other cities and things like that, but I think as long as like we're all doing our due diligence to like learn about like the history of our city and wanting to continue to empower that growth, then like what more can you ask for?
I want to go in on the
my A and my B.
With the juxtaposition of like motherhood and how that translates into your work experience with your boys and your boys.
Yeah.
I think that's really like I think it's a super powerful thing because you were opening up to us about being on the other side of the hill, receiving the workload, and now you're kind of delegating it, but in two different areas of your life.
Well, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've been in corporate, I've been in nonprofit, I've been like all over the gamut. And I think like
Now she's in crazy.
now I'm in crazy.
We want to be Rebecca
you know
when
what?
we grow up.
One thing that I
Really,
like,
though.
Yeah.
like early on, like as an intern in college, like I knew I enjoyed what I call controlled chaos.
Yeah.
Oh.
And like I just always knew like
it.
that's what I want to be a part of. Like
Yes.
I interned at one of the largest Hispanic ad agencies at the time, way back when, and I was just like just the energy there was like crazy, and I was like that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I did it, and like I got burned out, and I was like okay, like I need something, like it was becoming very like okay, I'm tired of doing this every day. And then I just went off on my own, and it allowed me to like, I started doing freelance. I think I'm going on like 7 years now of not like just working independently, most of the time for myself. But it was mainly for my kids and my boys. I have 3 boys, and
3 or
you know, yeah, 4 including my husband.
Counting you.
But
Oh,
yeah,
we're
and then
like
my work kids. But I really feel that freedom of having that like really true balance now, to where like I can take the time to help a small business like Adrian's business and other businesses. Like I enjoy that, but then I also have that time for my kids,
Right.
you know, and
What was
to
that
really be
element?
there. And
What was
to,
that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
like to really be there for them. And it's funny because you think like as babies and as you need them more, but no, when they get older, that's when you really need to be there for them. And that's the time that I'm in right now. I have a 21-year-old, 18 and 14-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's when they need, you know, talk, like, you know, they understand more communication, and that's when a lot of the nurturing comes in. So I appreciate, you know, that I've been blessed to be able to do that in my career, and still be challenged with things like helping a new business, but then also having like side projects as well. Like, you know, I help Adrian and his team part-time. Part-time. And then, you know, the other half of my time, a hobby of mine that is now becoming you know, it's kind of what my retirement goal is. I love dogs. People that know me know that I love dogs. And like I got this like, you know what? I love dogs. We live on property. We have always rescued, and I started this small little like I do in-home pet sitting. And so like that brings joy to me because I'm
Enriches you,
able to
yeah.
have like my
Right.
what Tessa calls like the A, you know, you have your A that's bringing in like, you
The
know,
money.
what you need to
Right.
survive, but then your B is like I mean, I'm passionate about everything that I do, but I truly love animals
Right.
and dogs, and being able to have that opportunity to have that as a side, like, you know, project. And I work mostly from home, so I'm able to do that. I mean, I think I'm like one of the luckiest persons,
That's
because
amazing.
like every time I have somebody come over, they're like, oh my God, like I wish I could do this, when they see like when
How
they,
and why?
when they
How
bring
do I
it-
do this?
Yeah, how am I going to do this? Why am I going to do this? You know, and I think I'm like in my most happiest place
Yeah.
right now, like in my
awesome.
career.
It's
And-
soul feeding.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
able to like be there for my kids. I'm able to support like, you know,
Your creative side.
the creative
you know?
side with businesses, but then I'm able to do my true, like, you
Soul
know,
thing.
with pets and
Right.
pet sitting. And just like Tessa, I know this sounds weird, but like I get the most thrill when I have a client that I've had pet sit their dog, that they think is like, oh my God, like my dog is crazy. My dog, you're never going to be able, and they're like, oh my God, we love you.
I have to get your information.
We never
on
thought
that.
that. We never
My
thought that our
Bear.
dog, like our dog's never been around other dogs. Or I'll be on phone calls with Adrian, and sometimes like they are like, Rebecca, we hear all your dogs barking. I'm like, yeah, the FedEx guy is here.
Very
Amazon
patient, very
Amazon
patient.
guy is here.
But
But a lot of times it's like you'd never know. I had like 10 dogs in my house
That's amazing.
because they're just like, you know, but it is, I love it because I'm fulfilling like two passions,
Yeah.
you know, and one like word of advice that I give for anyone, because I've been in this, y'all could all be my kids here. It's like, just like do what makes you happy. Do what, like, it's not about money, as long as you can, like, you know, have a roof over your head and sustain what you need. But like at the end of the day, it's doing what makes you happy. That's it.
Right.
Like,
I'm super inspired
Boom,
by
I just
your
got the
story.
shot.
It's so cool.
Sorry.
No, you're
Like,
good.
that was it.
And I
I know.
like,
I'm
That
like,
was the bomb that we dropped the mic on all of us. It was special. That was
I
super
think,
special.
I think the doing what makes you happy is a good,
I get emotional.
yeah.
I love that. I love that for you.
Lean into it. You lean
Inspiring.
into it.
I think that's the best thing about people and like what we do, right? Because we don't just have like the 9 to 5
Yeah.
regular stuff.
It's a
Is that we're always searching for something, like not searching for something different, but whenever we feel like we need a change or adjustment, we do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like you wanting to be like, I want to do dogs, like I want to
Yeah.
do this, and this is now, you weren't scared to do it.
No,
You're
and
like,
it's like
I'm just gonna figure out
and
how
it's
to do
also
it.
like all y'all have both said it, and I feel it because I've been around it. It's like when you have a team that is supporting you,
Mm-hmm.
that's the best.
Yeah, we always shake the dust. Like you can let it settle, and you can like be
Yeah.
like you can get complacent. But I think if you're constantly like pulling the rug out from beneath you
Right.
and like letting things move around, like
Right.
that's where I think like we've been able to like thrive and find
Right.
magic. And it's
Yeah.
like we may not know what's going to be on the other side, but if you like lean into it and just trust the process, like it's worked out. so
It'll
far.
work out. It'll
Yeah.
like figure itself out.
I
Yeah.
love that Rebecca like kind of like worked that in doing what makes you happy.
Yeah.
I don't think people have those conversations enough. And I think the people that I try to surround myself with, and I think a lot of people we try to surround ourselves with, it's what would you do if money weren't the option?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it makes us
Absolutely.
emotional. It makes us emotional because our crew behind the scenes, Derek, Logan, Kyle, Larry, we've done it. We got skin in the game. We got sacrifice. Kevin, like we're in it. We're happy doing this, and all of you guys and all of them are worth their value in dividends. Doing what makes you happy is the conversation that I think this humanity needs to hear, because we feel it in your canvas, we feel it on us, we feel it in your organization, we feel it in our friendships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In our creative,
Totally.
where we can bounce ideas and they go. But
That's the next topic.
yeah, that's the next topic, and the people we have. I've already ran this idea by multiple people that I respect, love.
I mean, I love what you're doing. I feel like the creative community in San Antonio is so much more open than like I think everybody realizes. You know, like getting into a creative community at first, terrified to like talk to anybody. I'm like, they don't know who I am. Like, they're not going to talk to me, you know, being scared. But realizing along the way, meeting so many people that in the city who do so many amazing things, you know, you feel inspired by everybody. Everybody is open to just talking and telling their story and sharing and helping one another. That is one thing that I love about the creative community in San Antonio, is just everybody builds each other up.
We're here for it.
Exactly. And the conversations and the support and, you know, name dropping on Instagram and this and that, and I'll be there at your event. Like, you all watching the show last night on Instagram Live.
Oh,
like,
no, I
it
was
just,
like cooking
it fills
and like
my soul.
watching.
Like, it's amazing, you know?
I was like there with my mom, and I was like, "Oh my God, someone's getting out of a crate!" I was like, "That's so cool!"
I was like watching her, I was like, is she dead? Oh, she's so dead.
That's so cool.
But yeah, thank you for having us here. This is amazing. And I don't know, maybe y'all heard it here first. Next Limatus collaboration.
Hey.
That's LFG.
Fangirling.
LFG.
Women
Thank
rule the
you.
world.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.